Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the YEREN, also known as the Chinese Wildman. This is one of the most interesting cryptids out there, mostly because of the eyewitness reports and how they are described to be extremely similar to the Sasquatch of North America, despite being on the other side of the world. Before we get into the topic, I have a quick message here from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by the Ridge Wallet. The Ridge Wallet is a sleek, durable, minimalist wallet that is perfect for your everyday carry loadout. They make it in aluminum, carbon fiber, and titanium. I got mine in the aluminum version in OD green because I think it looks the coolest, and mine also has a money clip on it. However, because I hate having things in my pockets altogether, wearing out my pants, I actually just clip the Ridge Wallet right onto my belt and keep it out of the way, and it stays on there quite securely. The Ridge Wallet is RFID blocking, has a lifetime warranty, and can hold up to 12 cards. You need to get rid of that ugly folding leather dad wallet that's overflowing with cards and receipts and crap you don't need. You need to pick up a Ridge Wallet. If you go to ridge.com/mountainbeast and use promo code mountainbeast, you can get 10% off and free worldwide shipping. That's ridge.com/mountainbeast, promo code mountainbeast. There's a link down below in the description. So lately I've been doing lots of research on the YEREN, or the Chinese Wildman, and the biggest thing I noticed is that the subject of the YEREN is taken way more seriously in China than the Sasquatch is in North America. And I'm not talking amongst like amateur investigators. I'm talking about the government. It seems that in China, the Wildman is taken very seriously to the point of where the military and actual government officials are out supporting the search for this creature. You have military-led expeditions into the mountains, into the jungles, looking for evidence of the creature, looking for DNA, looking for fossil remains, and lots of individuals who are in the military who actually run into these things and have encounters out in the field. So the research on the YEREN seems to be something that they actually want to find out. There's definitely no cover-up or anything like that in China. And it seems that way in a lot of other parts of the world. Like in Russia, they're a lot more open. The government is a lot more open to the idea of there being a wild man type creature, a Sasquatch or a Yeti. In Russia, you have the Almas. And of course, in Nepal, the government of Nepal, and in Bhutan and Tibet, they fully support the idea of these things being real. And over here, we suspect the government covers up the existence of Sasquatch or Bigfoot for whatever reason, mostly pertaining to industry and how, the idea of Sasquatch being out there would prevent industrial growth, in oil and gas and in forestry. And that, I guess that is possible, but I mean the idea of a government cover-up is a whole nother video. I mean, you could talk about that forever. But the Chinese Wildman, the YEREN, the reports suggest it being a large ape-like bipedal hominid, very similar to the Sasquatch, with giant feet that are very similar to a Sasquatch. Tracks that have been found in China are reported to be like up to 19 inches long, which is extremely large. And there have been expeditions that have went out and cast footprints like this. And the interesting thing about these tracks is how similar they are to tracks cast in North America of Bigfoot. They're almost identical, in shape and having the mid-tarsal pressure ridge. They have some sort of flexibility in the middle of the foot. And it's pretty crazy how they seem to match up, despite being on opposite ends of the earth. And, in different environments. I mean, they are in mountainous areas, but with completely different vegetation. One of the hotspots for these wildman sightings in China is the Xinanjia Nature Preserve in Hubei province. That's where a lot of reports have occurred and encounters by, military personnel. But I'm sure there's been other reports in different areas of China. Another interesting fact is that the Gigantopithecus fossils, that were found back in the day, they all came out of China. So it's very possible that there's some sort of Sasquatch-like creature in these areas. If there's going to be a descendant of Gigantopithecus, it's probably going to exist in China. And China does have other primates too in the jungles. They have monkeys and apes that are a normal thing to run into. A lot of people could misidentify seeing like a regular monkey or ape, or even like a bear or a panda bear. They could misidentify these for a Sasquatch-like creature, especially in the dark. But there's broad daylight sightings of them. A really common characteristic is that they have reddish brown hair. Really, really reddish brown hair, very similar to an orangutan. A lot of people who are questioned about the Wildman and questioned about their encounters describe it being very similar to an orangutan. If they had to compare it to anything, it would be an orangutan, though they do, say that it is different. They believe they didn't see an orangutan, but something similar. The face is different. They say it's much bigger. They say it walks on two legs for the most part. This would suggest something very much like a Gigantopithecus. Based on what we believe them to be, they're kind of like the grandfather of orangutans. So I don't know, I think if we're ever going to find a Bigfoot-like creature, I think, China's way ahead of us, just because they take it more seriously. It doesn't seem to be something that's really, laughed about over there or like joked about. In North America, the Sasquatch and the Bigfoot, it's, made fun of a lot and not taken seriously by a lot of people. It's something that's constantly laughed at. And to pursue the search for Sasquatch, especially if you're like an academic, it's incredibly high risk. But it seems to be something that's, widely accepted in China. Something that could definitely be real. I think that's very interesting. I was able to dig up some really good material in my research on the topic. I found some really good films, and I have links for them down below in the description. One of them's from 1997. It's called Into the Unknown, Chinese Wildman. Very good, short film production about the YEREN. And the other one's from 1990. It's called On the Trail of the Chinese Wildman. And it is really good. It's actually a documentary that I didn't even know existed. I just found it today, and I watched it and I was like, wow, this is actually pretty interesting and very amazing. This team, these researchers, they go on this expedition to search for evidence of the YEREN, and it takes them, into these deep parts of China where it almost looks like they're going back in time. Some of the places that they visit, some of these cities and towns, it's like they're untouched by modern culture. It's very interesting to watch. I highly recommend checking out that link. The legends of the YEREN go back thousands of years. They're first recorded in Chinese poetry. But it seems like every culture has some sort of wild man being. I wonder why. I wonder why it's so popular across the globe in all these parts of the world that are so different. The part of it that most closely resembles the Sasquatch is definitely the footprints. And I'm going to leave you guys with a video clip of Dr. Jeff Meldrum talking about the footprints found in China compared to, the footprints from North America. He had actually went to China and did some research there and some filming for a Monster Quest episode, a really good episode. You can find that on Amazon Prime. They have all the episodes of Monster Quest on there now. So check that out, and you'll see, how closely they resemble Bigfoot tracks. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.
Now, what really sealed it was I got to go to China to visit with witnesses and researchers about the Wildman, the YEREN. And they have reports that are remarkably similar, if not identical, to Bigfoot, Sasquatch. There's a higher preponderance of reddish-brown color reported, but that's just, genetic differentiation, having been separated by millennia by the Pacific Ocean. Next slide. One of the witnesses, who was a park ranger in the Shenandoah National Park, He originally was part of the team, the government-backed team that was sent to Hubei province to look for evidence of the Wildman. They were supported by the Red Army to the tune of about 700 men who beat the bushes for footprints and hair samples. They talked to and interviewed villagers, so forth. And after his stint with that scientific team, Mr. Yuan stayed on during the formation of the nature reserve and became a ranger. He'd been there for many years, since the 70s. Had a remarkable sight. But anyway, and had cast a pair of footprints in association with that site. They wouldn't let me see them, until they had the cameras rolling. Wanted to capture that initial reaction, but I had given him a reprint of the paper on the ichnotaxonomy, which featured this figure. He couldn't read the English, but he sure could look at the figures. He saw that, and he just became quite agitated. He was grabbing my coat sleeve, and I said, okay. So we were on the bus together. We went off, and they set up the cameras, and then he opens up his little suitcase and he rolls back the toweling, and out comes, next line. A little bit washed out in this photo, unfortunately, but there's this pair of footprints, which you could have lifted right from the series that Bob Titmus had cast. Next slide shows it a little bit better. Okay, there you can see it on the top. Not only is the pressure ridge there, it's in right the correct spot, exactly the correct spot, the same orientation. It's typically offset just a little bit, distolaterally, up towards the outside forward edge of the foot because of the slight offset of the talonavicular and calcaneocuboid joints that form that combined compound joint. And it became evident when I started looking more closely, because it was more obvious in the Chinese one. There's this kind of a double arch thing, like a McDonald's on its side, pointing this way, which marks the 2 points of pressure between those two joints I just mentioned. And here's another example from the Blue Mountains, where the same area where I saw those first set of footprints. Now look at the dates. Again, the timeline, the context is all important. No one had acknowledged the significance of that pressure ridge in the Titmus cast, even though it was discovered in 1967, the cast. My first publication of describing a mid-tarsal pressure ridge was 1999. Mr. Yuan cast his casts in 1995. Didn't speak English. They didn't have any of these documentaries on Chinese government-controlled television. And then this one was cast by Paul Freeman on the bottom in 1991. Now, if you're looking for a smoking gun, I mean, what more could you ask for? How could this fellow in China, or Paul Freeman, who knew nothing about anatomy, he was a pretty good naturalist and outdoorsman, but he knew nothing about foot morphology. I started going into a little sermonette about mid-tarsal pressure ridges and transvertarsal joints, and obviously went right over his head. He had that same kind of glazed look when students get sometimes. I get going too fast and too furious. And yet, in both those instances, they anticipated what I revealed nearly a decade later. How could that be? Is that just coincidence? I don't think so. Next slide.